what's happening? This is your host Tinto, and before we get started on this weekend's episode, I just want to ask you guys to help me bump up the show's ratings, because again, remember, got big plans, and once we move this up on the show ratings, a few doors start opening up, and I'm really trying to push big for this year. So if you listen to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, Castbox, Deezer, YouTube Music, wherever you listen to it on, please head over to the About section and give us a like, and then if you want to leave a rating and a comment, please go ahead and do so. So far, we've got 622 on Spotify. That's really jumped up a lot. Spotify makes up over 50% of listeners, so you guys are doing great. And if you're part of the 5,500 people that follow the podcast on Spotify, please just go over to the About section, give us a like, and help me cross over the 1,000 ratings point on that one. And then if you listen to this on Apple Podcasts, you guys make up 40% of total listenership, and we have 112 ratings there. To be great if you push that towards 500 and beyond. So please, before you listen into this episode, head over to that section and support. If you want to support money-wise, again, the usual thing, head over to www.buymeacoffee.com/feeling station and give as your spirit leads. Remember, there's nothing too small to support the podcast that you've grown to love. With that out of the way, let's jump straight into this weekend's episode. And let me not say too much. Catch you on the flip side.
Is that a breakup? I think we have a situation right here on the Feeling Station.
Hey, what's up?
How are you?
Not doing too badly. I took that message as my cue to try and call you back.
Cue received. Well done. A+.
Welcome to the Feeling Station.
Oh, hi.
Yeah. We don't mess about like that.
Oh, serious? It's like that, is it? You gotta edit this part out.
We go straight in.
No, you gotta let it go breathe, Tinto. Gotta let it go breathe.
For those listening to this podcast for the first time, it's a romantic family and friendship breakup podcast, showcasing stories that people would like to talk about with a view to give you lessons from their experiences. Now, I hope you find today's story entertaining, but more importantly, meaningful. And as you know, and everybody listening to this episode, it's popular for two main reasons. One, the first being I do my best to keep you anonymous.
Okay.
So, are you ready for the name that I have for you?
Yes, I am.
Okay, fantastic. It's I think it's a nice name. It's called Tanaka. And that and that comes from Zimbabwe. It's a Shona name, and what that means is, it's like a way of saying we good, we are sorted, we cool, Tanaka.
Okay.
And what would you like to call the name of the person that you're going to talk about today?
Okay, so I'm gonna call this gentleman Sir. Just Sir.
Sir. That is very posh, Tanaka.
Thank you.
Yes. So the story about Sir and Tanaka, and the second reason why the podcast is doing really, really well is they're real life lessons that people are going to walk away with from your story. So, what would you like anybody listening to your episode to walk away with?
So the lessons are plenty, but I'm going to try and summarize them. The first one being, number one, someone can be a good person and still not be your person.
Yep. That is very real. I can relate to that.
Yeah.
So yes, someone can be a good person and still not be your person. Cool. Got a second lesson?
Second one is saying sorry does not mean a changed mindset.
Oh, yeah. Hey, amen to that. Hey, I'm loving these. I'm loving these a lot. Do you have a third one for me?
Yes. Third one is you cannot paint a red flag green.
No, you can't. The green fades away real quick.
We try. We try.
Right? Nice.
I'm try. And last but not least, your feelings matter.
Oh, man. I really like these. They're almost too relatable to me, Yeah,
what can I say?
Like every single one of them. So I'll just play these back. Number one, someone can be a good person and still not be your person. Lesson number 2, saying sorry doesn't mean a changed mindset. Number 3, you can't paint a red flag green. And last but not least, your feelings matter. Cool.
Yes.
Let's get straight into it then, Tanaka.
Okay.
Tell me, I'd like to know where you met Sir and why you felt, Sir is the guy for me.
Okay, so I met Sir in church. I am a church girl, self-confessed.
Yeah.
And one lovely Sunday, I was at church and it was morning service. And I slipped in. I was serving at the time. So at the end of service, I kind of slipped into the back aisle so I could catch the last bits of the main service. And I was feeling, the praise and worship was good. Everything, the vibes were just vibing.
Yeah.
So everybody leaves and I walk past this gentleman. So I have to kind of say, excuse me, to walk past him. And I just say, hi. And he completely ignores me. So I'm just like, okay, it's a bit odd. And I just, kind of squeeze myself past him and then go into the foyer trying to find a motive because I'm between services. I'm staying for the evening one. And so I'm just looking around, hi, church stuff. Next thing, there's a tap on my shoulder. And I hear this voice saying, I think you said hi back there. So I turn around and I see the guy who had ignored me. So I say to him, yes, you ignored me. And then he apologizes. He's just like, I'm sorry. I was in deep contemplation. But I just wanted to say hi and to say you look really nice. So I was like, well, thank you. Thank you very much. And then he says, well, can I have your number? I said, no, you can have my email address.
Okay. I'll let you continue. Yes, go on.
And he just kind of chuckles. And then I think that gave him the confidence to be like, actually, what are you doing after service? Can I just take you for a coffee?
Yeah.
Because there was a very popular coffee shop about 2 minutes from church. So I said, you know what? I'm looking for a motive. Why not? So usually my defenses would be strong, but I was just like, well, something's happened. So we went for coffee. We got into this coffee shop that rhymes with monster. So we got in and I order my coffee, he orders his. Now, because it's 2 minutes from church, I go there every Sunday and I was collecting points. So I just say to him when he's paying, I was like, can I actually have your points? And then he turns around to me and he's like, well, I'm collecting points too. So no. So, and I was a bit annoyed by it, but it's not a big deal, but I just, in the bigger scheme of things, I was like, you know what, your points is not a big deal. But then again, I was like, why am I offended? It's not a big deal. So we sit, we start talking and, we're exchanging life stories. So he asked me what I do at the time. I was straight out of uni, didn't really have a job. I was doing, charity work, but I had hooked up with these 2 Zim girls. I don't want to give too much away, but I hooked up with these ladies who were doing PR. And this was many years ago. This is exactly 10 years ago. And it's just a shout out to them that what we were trying to do was make Afrobeats big in the diaspora in the UK where we are.
Wow.
I know.
Wow. Yeah.
I know. So any African artists who flew into the UK, we would book them interview slots. And so it was it was a fun life. It was really fun life. Didn't pay me anything, but I enjoyed it. So I'm explaining this to this guy and with a deadpan face, he looks at me and he says, that's not a sustainable career.
Oh.
It's not exactly. That was your response, Helco. That was my response.
This guy sounds a bit abrupt, doesn't he? Like very ga.
Abrupt, right? That's a very key word. And I was taken aback. So it ended up being like a debate because his logic was like, actually, what you're trying to do is change a trend of a lifetime, which is when especially African people come to the diaspora, they assimilate. What you're trying to do is make them take this music and be proud of it. That makes no sense. And really, he slated me about this thing. And I left feeling some type of way. Anyway, I switched the subject onto him. I was like, well, tell me what you do then. And, wow, it was a lot more prestigious. So he is the son of someone in government, and he had grown up around the world, and he was in finance, and his life made sense on paper. So, and I was impressed, slightly intimidated, but impressed. Well put together. He spoke different languages and, just really impressive. So that, I think, made me hold his response or his analysis of my life with a little bit more regard. So now I was just doing like a self-analysis. Maybe I should take this guy seriously.
Right.
Anyway, we leave the interaction. We go back to church. I've only known this guy 2-3 hours, and then on our way back to church, he makes a very odd request. He says, "Can I hold your hand?" And I said, so I'm doing mental math. And I'm like, I've only known you 2 hours. We literally had a discussion there where you slated my life off. But anyway, I'm just going to let this slide. So we hold hands. Meanwhile, this is a church where a lot of people know me. So this hand holding is a big thing. And we go in, and then he requests to sit next to me. And so we sit next to him. We go through the whole service. That's how this thing started.
I like the foundation. In that it met in a very wholesome place. You guys did a wholesome thing, which is to have coffee, although the conversation was a bit abrupt at some points. And then you're going back holding hands.
Yeah.
It's a very cute start. And if this wasn't the Feeling Station podcast, I'll be feeling a bit more hopeful about the ending. Okay, so you guys are back in church. Did you exchange any more contact information apart from an email address? Did it move to numbers?
Yes, by the end of the service, he took to the bus stop.
Yes, sir.
And he's like, okay, I'm going to try again with his American accent, which had me at the first go. He's like, I'll try again if I can have your number. I was like, well, you bought me coffee, fine. So I gave him my number.
Okay.
And that's what happened.
So now you guys start talking.
Yeah, we start talking.
And how did that go?
So, first of all, he entered the group chat. There was no group chat back then, but he entered the girls' group chat. And I called my friend. I'm like, this is how I feel. So how I felt was wrong-footed. I was like, the guy on paper is sound, but I feel some type of way about him. Like there was a sixth thing in me that I couldn't quite pin down. And she said, run for the hills. But no, that's not. I didn't listen. I didn't know. So I was like, no, that's the hill I'm going to go and
die on. I'm going to die on this hill.
I'm going to die on this hill.
Now that we can look back in hindsight, what is it that your gut was telling you from day one?
I can't. At this point, I can't say I could pin it down. I have to say a little bit more of the story because at that time, I was not. It just felt. I didn't feel. Something was just a bit off. I couldn't tell you what at the time, but we start talking, and then a week later, he invites me for dinner, and it's a really, really nice dinner. He goes all out. He takes me to a really nice place, nice French place. And I'm wowed. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I was impressed. Dinner happens. We talk. We get to know each other better, and then it ends. So what I remember about this dinner is the dinner itself was nice, candle lit, all the things. Then, as we're leaving, he hands me his jumper, and first of all, are we allowed to swear on this?
If you want, yeah.
Okay. I don't really swear as a person, but it's relevant to the story. So he hands me his jumper. He says, I'm going to the loo. And I take it, and then I have his jumper, and I'm putting my own coat on and getting myself ready. Accidentally, his sleeve falls onto the table into the candle. And so I'm so glad a waiter came, was coming towards me. She's like, Madame, the jumper. So we got a whole bit of a fun fair. Madame, the jumper. It's a bit mad. And then, we're putting out this flame. And then all I hear is, oh, fuck, you burned my jumper.
Oh, no. Wow.
So I'm like taken aback, and he says it like 3 or 4 times. And this is a really quiet, nice, posh place. So I'm now sorry. Like, I'm taken aback. I'm like, I'm so sorry. It was a mistake. I feel so bad. And I felt like he was accusing me or something, like I'd done it deliberately. And I'm just like, I'm so sorry. It wasn't. Anyway, we calm down, the waiter, oh, sorry, and they do their best. And, we call a cab and we go home. Well, he drops me off at my house. So the interaction on the way home was still a bit strange. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't mean to, it was a mistake. And I try and explain to him. And I said, you know what, I'll get you another jumper. And he says it as, he said it so, he just said it out like that. He's like, it's cashmere. You can't replace it.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
I was put in my place straight away, and I felt so small.
Yeah.
Anyway, I drop off. I just, you're just awkward. I drop off. I get into the house. He goes to his house. Good night. And then the funny thing is that the next morning, it was just like nothing has happened. He was just like, hi, like you start to message each other. So I thought he was going to apologize and be like, oh, I'm sorry. I kind of overreacted. Just, it's not a big deal. It was just in the moment. Nothing like that. There was just no validation or acknowledgement of my feelings or trying to, there just wasn't any coming back together after that emotional drama. So, okay. He continues. We, go on dates. So I live at home with my mom at the time, so he can't come to my house. It's an African home. That's not happening. So we meet a lot for dates, and that was nice. I got to experience a lot of the London scene. Then a couple of weeks after, he invites me to his house. Now, he lives about 10 minutes from the church. And so we go to church that Sunday, and he says, well, come, because I got my routine. And he's in a house share at the time. So we go to his house. I go up the stairs. He's at the top floor. I enter his room. When I say that room was the neatest, it was like a show home. Everything was in its place. Everything was in its place. The first thing that hit me is his shoes. So he had a shoe rack. He had 3 pairs of the same trainers in different colors. Sir, what is that about? So I go and I'm like laughing. I'm like, why do you have the same trainers? And he looks at me like I'm crazy. He's like, because I like them. I was like, oh, okay. I take a seat very gently. He starts his routine. I'm just watching him. He takes his shirts out. He takes his pants out. He irons them. Like, he puts them like daily, like how he's going to wear them. Everything is like neat and precise. I am like intrigued. I'm like, I've never seen anything like this. No red flag going on in my head at all. So I'm going to take a fascination. This is like a case study for me.
Yeah.
So we have dinner. Well, we have lunch, and then, he comes closer and he wants to kiss me. Okay, so I let him. Then the kissing becomes more intense. And then I say, oh, it's time to have the conversation. So I said, where do you think this is going? And he's like, well, I expect sex to be a part of the relationship. I said, so I met you in church, sir.
Yeah.
This is not something that is part of my rota. And he just kept reiterating, he's like, but that's an expectation I have in relationships. And I said, well, for me, it's not. So what are we going to do about it? Because it's not. The conversation becomes intense. We back off for a bit, talk about something else.
So hang on a second. You decided to ask this question mid-kiss.
It was a bit more. It wasn't just a kiss.
Explain. What was it then? What else was it?
Why are you acting like you've never kissed somebody before? And the kissing becomes intense. I said the kissing became intense. It went to second base.
I'm going to sound really dumb. But I really don't know what that is.
Stop it.
I'm serious.
Okay, so it was kissing and then there was fondling.
Oh, okay. Right.
So he wants to have his hands under my shirt. And so I'm realizing that things can disintegrate very quickly. The shirts will come off.
Yeah. Right.
And it's a Sunday. We've just come from church. What is going on?
Right.
So I wanted to know where the boundary was, because I fully believed, okay, he has a boundary. So it's not going to be sex, but it will be, you know, I want to go down on you, or like whatever it is. I just wanted to know where his boundary was. So surprise, surprise, when I hear he has no boundary, like he's expecting to go all the way.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I am taken aback. And then I gave him my boundary. I'm a church girl. We're not having sex.
Okay. So you could do anything else if you wanted, but just no sex.
No, not anything else. But like, okay, a bit of kissing is fine. Like a bit of fondling is fine. But as long as you know that at this point I will not be able to control myself, then stop.
Okay,
right?
okay, yeah.
So I think we fall asleep. You know, when you've just had like a disagreement, we've had food, I think I fell asleep. And then I woke up and then we wake up again. And so there was back to the whole kissing and touching. And so I thought, this is my younger self, that because I'd made my boundaries clear, that he would know when to stop.
Yeah.
So surprise, surprise, when there was no stopping. And next thing I'm looking at the ceiling and thinking, how the hell did I get here? So I'm trying to be PC for the people who are listening, but you kind of know what I'm saying, right? Or do you want me to be more explicit?
The thing that really makes this podcast thrive is how transparent people are. So, so you could use flowery language to describe the explicitity, or just say it as it is. It's entirely up to you.
Oh, okay. All right. So it goes from kissing to fondling to him being on top of me to sex.
Yeah.
And because I didn't say anything, because I thought I had made myself clear before. So I didn't say anything. But I definitely didn't enjoy the experience. And afterwards, I kind of got up. I was a little bit upset. I went to the bathroom, cleaned up, came back, and was expecting the same thing that I'd expected in the last kind of argument we had. Like, there'll be some sort of conversation and management of feelings. Look, I know what you said. I know how far it went. I'm sorry about this. You know, these are the boundaries we're going to put in place next time. Right? That doesn't happen. He just continues like nothing's happened. You ask me, are you okay? I just, kind of murmur, whatever. And life keeps going. So I'm confused by all of this. And I just say, look, I'm just going to go home. And I go home. And now, because of what's happened, I can't really tell any of my friends, because they're going to start by saying, how did you end up in that situation? Why were you at his house? Like, it just becomes a big thing. So I'm trying to manage my feelings on my own, and I can't figure it out. If I had common sense, that should have been the time to exit. But I did not have common sense. What I decided was, this guy, he's traveled around the world. He doesn't really understand. He'd been in boarding school since he was about 5 years old. I was like, his emotional understanding is a bit limited. So I decided to paint red flags green. This is what I decided to do. Because he's not entirely a bad person. Like, we have good conversation. He teaches me a lot, but it was just this part that was difficult. I'm like, no, he'll learn. So that's how the relationship kind of flows.
At what point did he ask you to be his girlfriend?
He never did. We always used to go back and forth even till the end of the relationship, because he technically says the day I asked you to hold hands with me was the day I asked you to be my girlfriend. I was like, sir, you asked me to hold hands. You didn't ask me to be your girlfriend. But in his mind, that act of intimacy was him asking me to be his girlfriend.
Wow. So if you were mid-conversation with your girls and they would ask what he was to you, you would say he's my boyfriend.
After the sexual encounter, yes.
Okay.
Before that, no, it was just a guy I was going out on dates with.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So we're officially dating now because the sex has happened, in my mind anyway. And I've gone home and had a conversation with myself and decided this is the person he is. I've had sex with him, so I have to make it work. Right? And so I go on this defense campaign of him in my mind and to other people. So when we'd go out on dates, he would do this thing which I really found. He's abrupt as a person. So even to waiters, like everyone, like waiting staff, he's just like, he knows what he wants. He's going to say it. There's no please, no thank you, just the way he is. And I would find that I'd have to be kind of the mitigating. I'd have to bring the nice energy, the, oh, I'm so sorry. And I just overcompensated.
Right.
And that became a dynamic we became familiar with. I would be the calmer person and he would be himself. Okay. So now it comes to, he decides one day, I want to come and see your family. I was like, no, you can't just turn up and see my family. Like, you're a guy. There needs to be intention. And he's like, no, I want to see your mom because I want to take you out for the weekend. And you keep lying to your mother about where you're going. You're grown. Like, this makes no sense.
Hey.
So introduce her. So,
yeah, nah.
He said, introduce me to her so she knows that you're with someone responsible. So he's kind of seeing it like that. So I go to my mom like a mumu, proper mumu. One Sunday, I forgot who my mother was. And I bring up the subject before I run off to church. So I'm like, Mom, so I'm kind of seeing this guy. And first of all, I say where he's from, and she's not happy because we're not from the same country. And she's not had good experiences of this country. And but he's a really nice guy and he wants to take me out for the weekend. And so he just wants you guys to meet so you know who he is and, you know, all that good stuff. So my mother just looks at me with one long pause. And I have to say it in Shona. You can do it in English, but I'll say it in Shona.
Yeah.
She looks at me and she says, inini handichengeti vakadzi vevanhu kumba kwangu saka kana paine murume ari kuuya kuzokutora nehembe dzako dzese.
For those that don't understand, Tanaka's mom basically said, I do not keep people's husbands here. If this man ever sets foot here, he is coming to take you and your clothes and you're never coming back. Pretty much, right? Because now you're already wife, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what she's basically saying. In her mind, you don't bring no man to this house who is not intentional about making you his wife. But at the time you do that, he is your husband.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, this is certainly not going to work. And I go and I tell him, this is the reason. This is why I told you this wasn't going to work. I have an African parent. This does not work. But we end up going away for the weekend anyway because he wanted to meet. So we could go away for the weekend, but we do. I just lied about some work thing. We go away for the weekend.
Right.
And I can't, so that's one thing. So that happens. And that's kind of the dynamic of the relationship. Now, I want to point out at this point, we were meeting up every Sunday because he was close to church. He used to call his mom every Sunday because his mom did not live in the same country as him. His mom and his dad, but he would speak to his mom mainly. He was here alone. He's estranged from his family, building his own career. At no point did he think to introduce me to his family. Like, so he's saying he wants to meet my family, but like I am in the same room and as he's talking to his mom and he does not say anything about me.
Yeah.
And his life is very separate. Even at work, he would have work events and I'd be like, oh, that's really cool. He would not invite me. So his life was very how do I want to say it, very divided. Does that make sense? So his birthday comes along. I'm saying that to say this. So his birthday comes along, and the person I am, like, I was like, oh, you know what? I don't really know his family, so I'm going to do a surprise video for him. So I reach out to his siblings in the different countries where they are, and I ask them to create a video of him, and I kind of introduce myself, as by this time we've been dating for like 8 months. I'm like, I'm his girlfriend. This surely should not be a big deal. His birthday comes, I take him out, I show him the video, and he looks at me like not in a nice, this is a lovely surprise way, in a more of a, and he asked me the question, he's like, why did you reach out to my family?
Oh. Wow.
Yeah, that was like a punch in the gut. I was like, oh, and so already I go on the apology tour because I'm so used to it. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I really didn't think it was a big deal. Like, I wanted them to do something nice for you. I wanted to do something nice for you. I know you didn't introduce me, like you didn't introduce them to me, but it wasn't meant to offend you. And he kind of sits there, he looks at me, and it was just really awkward. And he's like, okay, fine, cool, but don't do that again. Oh. So you want to meet my mom? So I didn't know if it was like because of what my mom said he was being like this, but I don't think they were linked. I think that's just the way he was. So all this time, nothing is ringing in my head because you know what? The dates are nice. The holidays are nice. Logically speaking, he's a sound guy. He teaches me many things about like life because I'd grown up in an all-female family. So to me, I used to make a lot of emotional decisions. And then one day he booked dinner. I remember this. I'm going to say this as an incident. Like, he booked dinner and I was on the bed and I didn't really feel like going. So I was like, I don't feel like going. He turned around to me and he's like, your feelings have nothing to do with it. Like, you made a commitment, you go. Wow. And I was like, but you see, you say wow. But to me, I was like, this is like a different way to do life. And clearly he's successful. So this is new. Maybe I should be learning from him. So I didn't take it as bad. I took it as a learning journey.
Right.
But it was costing me emotionally.
Yeah.
But I was learning things. So that happens.
And all the while, you guys continued sleeping with each other?
Yeah. This time is...
So I remember the first time you said, you described how it made you feel afterwards. Did that feeling persist?
I mean, the feeling was there. I just learned to manage it better. But when I look back on the... I'm saying so much. When I look back, I realized that on a deeper level, I was disconnected because for the whole time we were together, this is going to sound shocking to people, we only ever did, like 98% of the time, we only ever did one position.
Okay, why would that be shocking to people?
Because people like to experiment. 98% of the time you're with someone, this is almost like maybe weekly, you're doing one position. Is that shocking? Is that not shocking? Is that what people are doing? I don't know about people's lives, but surely I'm hoping people are having a lot more exciting sex.
Is it the one that he preferred or you preferred?
It's the one he and I preferred. It was as detached as possible. It was doggy style because it's like, I can't look into your eyes. It's a very detached, emotionally style. Do you know what I mean? It's like you do what you do and you're done.
Ish. I don't know how this just made me feel, yeah, I mean, especially when you describe how abrupt he is as a person, and the comment you made just now to say feelings have nothing to do with this. Do you get it?
Yeah.
And then there's that choice of a style, and then even the way that he asked to hold your hand also felt very abrupt. I want this now, and you're gonna do it.
Yeah.
And then even right from the greeting itself, when he came back around and he said, "Oh, I thought you said hi to me," he probably heard you.
Exactly. Sack. You see, you're knitting it all together very well. This is not your first rodeo.
I don't know. Okay, but I don't want to take too much away from it. So yes, you continue hanging out. You continue meeting.
We continue meeting and we continue hanging out. And eventually I would invite him to the house when my mother wasn't here, obviously. So one of those times he comes into the house and he sits. I'm on the phone at the time, trying to arrange something work-wise. And he sits here and no one caters to him because it's me and my brother and my sister are out. He's waiting for me. And I'm on the phone 20 minutes. Next thing I hear, the door's banged and the person's gone. So I'm like, what's going on? So I run down the stairs and I'm like, where are you going? And we have a massive argument. He's like, you kept me waiting. I was like, but I was on the phone with work. I need to sort this out. It's an emergency. It wasn't an emergency, but it's something I needed to do urgently.
Yeah.
And I kept checking. I just said, give me time. I will do it. And he just goes off. He's like, you can't keep me waiting. I said, it wasn't on purpose. Bringing back that kind of thing that happened when I burnt his thing, it's like he feels affronted, it's a personal attack.
Okay, yeah.
And so now I'm an apology to a princess. So I'm like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for that to offend you. And this response will forever in my mind be crazy because halfway through that, he just pulls me into him like a movie, kisses me, and tells me I'm going to marry you. I promise you this is not a lie. It's not a lie. And again, I feel wrong-footed. The emotions are not making sense. Do you get me? And I always felt emotionally wrong-footed. We're having an argument. How are you drawing me in and telling me you're gonna marry me? You've just walked out of my house because you said I'm ignoring you. It makes no sense. But then I melted into his arms. I was like, oh, that's so romantic.
It's almost as if he knew all the right things to make sure that he keeps you in check.
Yes, it was enough mean to keep me wrong-footed, but enough goodness to keep me there. And true to his word, in 6 months, I woke up one Sunday so our life became going out for dinners, going to church, coming, chilling at his house, and everything was detached. He didn't really meet my family. I didn't really meet his family. So it was a very stifled, it was just very insular. He didn't have a lot of friends. His work consumed a lot of his time. And because he was nomadic in his life, he didn't really settle anywhere. So I was making all these excuses for him. But I wake up one Sunday we've had lunch and whatever, and I take a nap and I wake up and there's a ring on my finger. Tinto, no lie. This is how this guy proposed to me. He proposed to me in my sleep.
So that you wouldn't say yes or no. You imagined your response.
He proposed to me in my sleep.
Wow.
And I wake up and there's a ring on my finger and I can see on his face that he is so proud of himself that already I have to mitigate again how I feel. So I'm like, oh my gosh, trying to act all surprised. I absolutely hate the ring, number one, and the way it's been done is not working for me. So I'm like, oh, surprised, what's going on? He's like, oh, I bought you this ring. Remember I told you I was going to marry you. I really see a life with you. All of this nice stuff, he said, and I want us to get married. So I asked him the questions have you spoken to my mom? No. Did you speak to any of my friends? No. How did you choose this ring?
Yeah.
In all fairness, how he chose the ring was really cute.
How did
the
he choose
ring, he said that he chose carrots that were the same as my age at the time. He did, because I went to get that thing weighed.
Wow.
And it was a flawless diamond because he said you're flawless.
Yay!
You see?
Yeah, that's why I called Tanaka, because like we said, we're good. We saw it.
We're good.
Cool.
And I'm just like, oh, that's really sweet. It was really sweet. Like, so I'll forever know the carrots and like the type of diamond it was forever. It was really sentimental, but I did not like the style at all. So I go and I explain this to my mom. I'm like, okay, mom, okay, this is serious. So instead of him doing the job, like I'm the one who has to be the one to be the intermediate in our family, because I know he's too abrupt for my mother. My mother's African. She wants kunyengererwa. She likes that whole, oh, mommy, how are you? You know, and he is not that person. So I explain to them and I say, you guys should meet for lunch and kind of have a conversation about, going forward. So I arrange the lunch. They go for lunch. And I'm not there. Thank God. But when I walk into the house afterwards, my mom was like, I don't like him. He's not for you.
What was the reason why you were not at that lunch?
No, it's too much for me. No.
Okay.
Now you ask, it's a good point. I don't know why I wasn't there, but I was thinking he's asking for my hand. I shouldn't be a part of that. Like,
right.
No,
okay.
He didn't arrange it, but usually traditionally the guy would go on his own, right? So I'm kind of trying to halfway house. I'm like, okay, I'll plan it, but you have to do the work.
Right.
Okay. So
mom comes back and she's like, nah.
He says, nah.
Did she say why?
She couldn't put her finger on it either. She couldn't, because it's hard, telling the story now, you can knit it together, but if you're having just one interaction, you kind of have that feeling, but you don't know what it is. So she's just like, nah, she says, no, he reminds me too much of my ex-husband.
Oh my days.
That was her excuse.
Wow.
He's like, no. But by this time I'd already invested too much, and home wasn't exactly working for me at the time either. So I had already decided, remember from the time that we had sex, that this is a hill I'm dying on. So I was like, it's happening. It's happening. I meet up with him and asking his side of the story, and he's like, I don't like your mom. She had a lot of bad things to say about you. And why would you say that about your daughter? I'm like,
what? So it wasn't a good meeting both ways.
It wasn't a good meeting both ways. So he's there thinking he's fighting for me. She's there. She's thinking she's fighting for me. I'm just here like, what do I do now? So in order to make his life hard, so I'm the first. My mom is the eldest in her family, and I'm one of the older cousins, right? In our family, the older cousin to get married. So we're first generation immigrants. We've come over, and no one in the children has gotten married. So it was a new thing for everybody. Being the test subject is not easy.
Yeah.
Because my dad is not around. And so my mom took it on herself to be the one to set the dowry, the standard, everything. She wrote out the whole list. And because she didn't like him, that list was ridiculous. That list was ridiculous. It's given to his family, a family I've not spoken to. And they come back and push back and they say, no, we're not doing it. Because my list for dowry was just under 15K.
Wow. Wow.
And because this is new for him, he's thinking he has to drop the whole amount straight away.
Oh, yeah.
And I try and, if I had known about okay, I'm just going to say it and then we'll talk about it later. So I try and explain to him that, look, the way it works is this thing is just a building of relationship. The number is there, but you schmooze and you talk and you laugh about it and you say, well, I can only do this amount. It's supposed to be a building, a time to build relationships. That's the concept. but he just can't conceptualize it. In his mind, he's like, this is prostitution. I probably have already spent 15K on you anyway on the things that we do. No. When I tell you that, when I say that, this guy would say what was on his mind.
Wow.
Straight up. He's like, I've already spent that amount on you. I'm not doing it again. So this number needs to come down dramatically. Meanwhile, my mom is like, no, it's not. So in summary, this whole thing falls apart. I'm hurt that he's not fighting for me. And I'm like, you know what? I've compromised so much in terms of my emotions and managing him, and like these little things that used to go unaddressed, these abrupt situations. And in this moment, I just needed him to do the right thing. I just needed him to take the L and to keep it moving.
Yeah.
But he didn't. And I'd had enough. And so I just called him. I just said, this is not working. I called the whole thing off. I was just like, forget it. I couldn't handle the pressure. And just as abruptly as that, it was the first abrupt thing I ever did. I was like, no, it's over. And negotiations died there and then.
Wow.
And we broke up.
The only question that I've already asked.
Okay.
Because just his abrupt nature was making me a bit, a bit on edge. It didn't feel as if you had a lot of flexibility to express who you were. It's almost as if he was dictating a lot of what you should have been.
Yes.
I'm not sure that a lot of you has come across in this story, because, right from just holding hands and everything else that has happened, it's on his terms. You speak to my family on my terms. I want to speak to your family on my terms. This dowry thing, I've decided it's prostitution. I don't understand the issue behind it. It needs to be resolved. It's all very full and all very in your face. So maybe the one question I may have for you is, at what point did you feel, this guy's a bit too much?
See, I'm going to answer this question in a psychological point, like from a psychological point of view.
Yeah.
His emotional neglect was not new to me.
Oh.
So this is where the problem lied. I had lived with emotional neglect. It wasn't new. So at no point was it ever too much.
Right.
What became too much was my ability to handle it. I never thought he was too much. I thought, I've had enough. This is too much for me.
Yo, okay, I get it.
Yeah. And that's why at no point were there any red flags per se for me. It was just like, I'm used to this, not feeling heard, not feeling seen, not feeling validated.
Yeah.
But of course, I wanted a different ending I wanted the fairy tale ending. And that's why I'm like, okay, you are a good enough rough diamond. I will do the work of polishing you so you can be what I need you to be.
Gotcha. So that was going to be your way of expressing yourself then?
Yes, okay. I'm going to work on you. You're going to become the person I need you. So then I will create, you will become my safe place by fire, by force. Yo. I just need to do enough work to get you to see that I'm not threatening. I actually really love you. And that's where the thing was, because in moments of vulnerability, I knew he loved me. Even to this day, I can call this man back and he will take me back. Like, I knew he loved me, but he just couldn't express it in a way that was meaningful to me.
Okay. I get that.
Yeah. So we break up. So in a fit of emotional overwhelm, I break up and end everything. And I just go into a depression. I stop work. I go into a depression. And then my family, like I said, is not very emotional. So no one's really checking on me. No one's helping me. It was like this thing happened and then it just went away. Like I just didn't feel like for something as big as this, my family was there for me. So this depression goes on for about 4 months. We're not talking.
Yeah.
We completely cut communication. I think people know his character by now. If I say I'm not talking, he's not calling me. Like, not that even, emotionally, I just want to check up on you. No, none of that. And then one day, I hear my mother and my brother laughing in the living room. It was such a random thing. I don't know what they were watching. And I had this sudden anger in my belly. I'm like, these people, they made my life really hard. And look at them laughing whilst I'm here crying. And yet my husband is somewhere there. And because of these people, so I just blamed them. I just shoved the blame onto them. I'm like, I am going to get my man. Sod this bullshit. I'm going to get my man. You people are laughing whilst I'm crying because I have no husband. No, sod it. So I call him.
What?
I know. And I say, let's talk.
What? Okay.
I know. And we meet up at the same coffee shop. And I say, let's assess what's happened. Now, I was expecting him to be a little bit more understanding of my situation. But what happened was he was quite cold with me, and he was very aloof, is the word. So I'm saying, I'm sorry for what happened. I was overwhelmed. This thing got on top of me. You were calling me. You were calling this thing prostitution. No one was moving. I'm getting it from my mom. I'm getting it from you. There's your family telling you this. Like, it was just too much. And I'm dealing with this by myself. And I'm expecting him to understand. And he just tells me how hurt he is. He's like, I'm hurt that you just break up with me like that. I'm hurt that you would just walk away. I'm hurt that you would, don't value this relationship. My mother told me that, he should not be with someone who is come from a divorced family. All sorts of things were said. And I felt like I needed to make up for that. So he says, fine, let's get back together. But the dynamic changed completely of the relationship. So before, I would say, yes, he was abrupt, but he was more of the one who pursued me. Like, I would... I know it doesn't seem like it in the relationship, but I would make him work. Like, when you're saying when you're pursuing someone, like, so I would put my foot down about certain things, not a lot, but about certain things. And he would feel wrong-footed. By this time, when we got back together, he was definitely in the driving seat.
Right. Okay.
He was in the driving seat. And there was not much I could do about it. So he's like, wedding off the table. At the time when we got back together, about 6 months later, he was finally buying his house. And I said to him, well, if we're getting back together, does it not make sense that the money for the house, maybe we do a small wedding and then we can get something together? And he said, no, I'm buying the house. I'm putting it in my name. I said, oh, okay, you do that. So he buys his house. He has me look at different houses. He has me be the proper girlfriend. I'm assessing, I'm talking to people. But when it actually comes to the purchase, I finalize. I'm like, okay, this is the one that makes sense. And he calls and he does the paperwork and he gets the house. But the house is in his name because for some reason he doesn't trust me. He thinks I'm just going to leave. And that has been a problem. So I'm going to go back. Sorry about this, but every time I would leave, so let's say I'm at his house, so not leave like a restaurant, but leave his house, this guy would almost have a meltdown. Why do you have to go? I don't want you to go. Why are you going? And I used to find this strange because I'm like, you're so abrupt on one hand, but every time I left, like he knows I'm going home. It's not like I'm going anywhere. It's not like I'm going on holiday. I'm just going to my house. He would have this, like, it hurts it hurts his heart. I don't know how else to put it. So he buys the house and he says to me, so this was the dynamic. He said something when we were talking about getting back together. He said, I felt really hurt because you were my heart. He said, I would express myself through you. And on the surface, that sounds really nice. But deeper, that's showing that this person like has some sort of emotional discord. And yes, I felt that. I really felt the weight of what he was saying because it was true. Where he would not be able to express himself, he would put the burden on me to do it.
Right.
So the house, no, you're not acknowledging the fact that I'm hurt by the fact that you haven't put me on the title deed, but there you are saying, let's go shopping. I really want you to put the heart into this home. I want you to choose the furniture. I want you to choose it's like I trust you to do the heart things, but I don't trust you to do the head things. Does that make sense? Heart things like the finance and all of that, the things that need a logical mind, he just didn't trust me for. But he's like, the heart emotional things, yeah, you do that all day, every day. So we do up the house. All of this is happening in secret. His family don't know we're together. My family don't know we're together.
Jeez.
And then this goes on for about a year and a half. When I say year and a half, secret, nobody knows.
Not even people at the church.
Not the church, not my friend. Not anybody.
Yo.
For a year and a half, nobody knows. We are going on holiday. We went on holiday. No one knows. Cyprus, Miami, like. Anyway, it's funny to say it now. And then one day I'm at home and a big fight happens in my house. It was just one of those days. Satan had come to visit and it just erupts in a big fight and a lot of things were said. Police were called and I just said, I'm packing my bags and I'm going. This is not for me. And in that one afternoon, I packed my bags and I moved in with him.
So the big fight happened at your house with your people.
Yeah. So
thinking that the big fight happened between you and Sir.
No. So So we bought the house. We're dating in secret for a year, right? And then I'm at home one day with my people, and a big fight happens in my house or my family, and then I just take my bags and I move out. But remember, no one knows we're dating, so they don't know where I've gone because I'm not talking to anybody. So I move in with him, and that was interesting because now I'm in his space.
I'm assuming you told him beforehand that shit's popped off at home. I need a place. I'm coming to yours.
Yeah, but I told him afternoon. I told him when it happened, like in that day. There was no prior anything.
Did he object to it? Was he as abrupt as he is? What was his immediate response?
He was hesitant, and I kind of bulldozed over that because at the end of the day, I helped you choose that place. There's no, do you know what I mean? Like, okay, you can be hesitant, but I feel like I've got equal dibs on this. Yes, your name's title deed, but let's not get.
Wow. Okay.
I've invested as well. Right. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's our home.
Okay. Yes.
So I move in, and that's when I started to really see fire.
Okay, go on. I shouldn't be laughing. I shouldn't be laughing at because you've literally gone from the pot into the fire.
It's the fire.
And the thing is, you knew that the pot was hot because of fire beneath it, but then you're like, nah, let me check what this is all about.
You know that Nigerian saying when it says wisdom is chasing you but you're faster.
Yes.
Right? I think that's what's happening here. Wisdom was chasing me.
Okay, so yeah, you moved in and the fire is now hot.
Now, let me tell you something. Now, for all those who live with people with OCD, what? No, big ups to you. You put something on a side, it's moved. I just felt so displaced because he had been living in that place for a year and a half on his own. And so he had things where he wanted them. All of a sudden, I've stepped into this space with all my bags. He's a minimalist. I'm not. I want things around. Zvakanetsa. It was a struggle. I felt like an interloper. I don't know how to describe that.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, interloper. Like he didn't want me there. And he couldn't express it with his emotions. Like he didn't have emotional language. So it would be in just actions of my things being moved, my like sarcastic comments, just all of this stuff. And it was so uncomfortable for me. So I said, okay, let's go and see a counselor because this is getting too much for me. Like I live with it now and it's 24/7 and I don't even have my family to run back to because what kind of nonsense is that? You've run and then now you've seen this fire you ran to. Now I can't run back home. Like I've made my bed. I need to lie in it. Meanwhile, people are trying to figure out where I am this whole time. No one knows where I am. So we go to church. I finally confide in somebody who is like aunt to both of us. Like, church aunties, So.
Yeah.
And I explained the whole thing. I said, look, I like this guy. There's potential. Our families don't really get on. I feel in the relationship like his life is his, my life is mine. Like there's no coming together. And I want us to have more of a shared life together. I want us to I don't know how to describe it. I just wanted us to be more united in the things that we did. And this auntie says, she's Nigerian. You see, this thing that you want is only things that happen in marriage. You see, this one that you want, all this. Well, it's like, what do you want? And I was like, things like, a shared account, a shared life, shared goals, shared ambition, shared vision. Right now, there's nothing shared. We just live in the same house. He goes to work. I do my thing. He doesn't even ask about my day. He's not involved in my life. I'm not involved in his. It's very detached. She said, this is marriage. Church and marriage. Anyway, that's a story for another day. So the church pushed towards marriage. And he's hesitant because of his experience of wanting to get married the first time. He's still not quite over that trauma. I remember after that happened, we went away to Cyprus because I said to him, look, if we don't get married, I'm not doing this again because I feel like we don't live a shared life and it's like I'm lonely in a relationship and that makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
I remember crying at the beach. I remember all the theatrics. Oh, Jesus. Like, I feel like I begged this man to marry me. And he said, fine, but we're not getting any family involved. That was his what's this boundary? So I say, fine. We planned the whole thing on our own. And then I let my parents know. So this was now 2019. We'd been together minus the kind of 8 months that we were off. We'd been together almost 6 years by now, 7 years.
Wow. Okay.
The only thing we shared at that time was a Netflix account. 7 years.
Wow.
Still haven't met any of his work people. Still haven't been invited to any dinners. Still don't really talk to his family. Anyway, this story is interesting, Sha. So we planned the wedding. We do it all ourselves. No dowry. What dowry? I invited people to my wedding. It was like a party. It was like, how someone will give you a dinner invite. Come. That's how my wedding was. It was like, no. Traditional is we're not doing that. You're invited. Oh, I didn't even know you got back together. That's none of your business. You're invited to the wedding.
Hold on. What is it about the traditional component did you not want to be a part of the story? Is it the fact that the amount was a lot?
It was the whole drama around the integrating of the families, because I didn't want to go into too much detail, but when my mom met my ex for that dinner or that lunch. She had enough of an impression of him for her to be really turned off him. When now the negotiations were happening between families and insults were being thrown around, the insults were sometimes my mother calling his mother and saying, "What kind of son did you raise? This is ridiculous." Now, his mother saying, and she's from a country where they don't take insults very easily, right? Like, how dare raise the phone and say that to me about my son? Who does she think she is? And you are part of you're not even with a man, you're divorced. Like, it got really bad. It got really bad. So yeah, I could not live through that again. I could not live through that again. Because no one's opinion has changed about each other. You know what I mean? So if this is the whole prostitution and all of that, and your son, and you raised someone with no manners and someone who cannot talk to people properly and all of that drama, if that's what you're going to be doing and not concentrating on us, then it's okay. You can't sit there. So I sent invites, and my family were happy for me. My aunts came around and they're like, you know what? My aunties were like, you know what? We're proud of you for actually taking a stand and doing what's right for you. It's causing a lot of drama at the moment because my mom was like, I'm not coming. She's marrying herself off. This has nothing to do with me. So, it became dramatized. But I was like, I'm going to do what I want. So, small wedding, we invited 60 people, and the criteria was like, you need to know both of us as a couple. If you don't know both of us as a couple, you're not invited. No, that makes it, because you want people to celebrate you, especially with all the drama that had been going on. So his family, like I said, are abroad. So they didn't get their visa in time to come. I don't know when he told them, because I'm not talking to them, right? So it's mainly my family who were at the wedding. And then he says this thing to me before we get married. He says, I don't want a civil wedding.
What?
Thank you. He said, we met in church. I think we should just have a ceremony. It's more important to make our commitment before God than before the law of the land. Like, that doesn't mean anything to me.
Right.
So I say, huh? And he's like, yeah, I don't want a civil. So it's so late in the game that I've already bought a dress. We already have everything done and ready to go. So we end up having, like, I wear the dress on the day. Yeah. We have a minister, we have anything, but we don't sign papers. And actually no one really clocks that we don't sign papers. So everybody thinks I'm married.
What?
Legally. But I'm not.
This is nuts.
This is nuts. Pictures are taken. That we spent like close to 20 grand. Everything is nice, and everybody's like, "Yeah, she's gone. She's married him," and it's. And then COVID hit. Yeah.
So hang on. You okay? So obviously you don't do the civil thing. So you didn't sign anything in front of the law, right?
No, we didn't.
So the Matrimony Act and whatever doesn't apply to you guys. But then he says that the church ceremony is more important.
That's
so. Did you do anything church wise?
Yes. Yeah, we did a proper, like, he had a friend who was like a pastor when he was in a different city, who kind of was like a mentor to him. You talk not regularly, but enough for him to come down and be like, I'll officiate your wedding.
So officiates the wedding, but then there's no signing of certificates at that officiate.
No, there's no.
So you're just glorified civil partners.
Exactly.
That wore the wedding dress and suit and whatever that comes with.
Yeah.
Why?
I was delusional. And in my mind, I wanted the marriage. So my relationship with him was so broken that I believed this church lady when she said marriage will fix it. So I just wanted marriage at any cost. Do you know what I mean? It was like, whatever version of it you want, I don't care. Like, as long as I get to have my fairy tale ending, which is, if it's marriage you need, for you to trust me enough to start to let your guard down and actually allow my emotional expression in this marriage, then that's what we'll do. Because this is what they're telling me. These things that you want out of him, he doesn't feel safe enough with you. Why would someone buy a house with you when you're not married? Why would someone, commit to you? We both said we didn't want children, so it was never an issue. And why would someone link their lives with you when there's no commitment?
Yeah. So, did you guys walk around wearing rings at this point?
Yeah. Oh, 100. Like, I say we were married. We did the whole thing. We had rings, everything. Put me on his life insurance, everything at work. Like, he was my, we were married.
Except that you didn't have the marriage contract to back you guys up.
Exactly.
This is, yeah.
So, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, technically it's not a bad thing. Let's just start the marriage life. His parents didn't manage to come because of their visa thing. So I say to him, look, we can do a small civil thing later down the line when your parents come and their visa comes through, and, we can still do something. Maybe it'll be a year after, but, something will happen. Unfortunately, we go into COVID that year, and it never happens because then his mother passes away. So what was meant to be a plan for maybe a civil, because I just wanted, like I said, I wanted him to get comfortable enough to know that I'm not a threat to him, so we can get married. So whatever his reservations were, I just wanted him to know, like, I'm not going to leave. I'm here. I'm not leaving.
Yeah.
We can do this. But then 3 months into the relationship, let me tell you, that first 4 weeks, I put my best foot forward, Tinto. I was a wife. I was cooking, I was cleaning, I was available for sex 24/7. I was doing the most. Like, he looks back and he's like, that was one of the best months of my life.
Wow.
So I'm expecting him to change. I'm like, okay, fine. Now we're married. So, show me what you got as a husband, not a boyfriend. Nothing changes. Not a deepening of his emotional expression, not a deepening of his commitment, not okay, let's open a bank account. Okay, let's do, like, I'm now even starting to think, what do couples do together for you to know that your lives are linked? I don't even, now I actually am trying to think, what do you do? Maybe meet family together, like, just life things you do together. None of that changes. So 3 months in, I feel like I've been conned, and then I go into a deep depression again. And it's bad. It's bad because I feel like I can't leave the relationship because I'm the one who came out of my own head to come back into this fire. It was me who made this choice. So I literally say, I'm going to die here. I'm going to die here. He is going to kill me with a lack of love and emotional neglect, and I'm going to die here. And I start to disintegrate emotionally, mentally, to the point where my family put me on suicide watch because I'd put in by that time 9 years into this thing, and I had not seen results, and I could not give any more than I had given. And I felt like such a failure. And I felt like I just felt like I'd failed. and I had nothing to show for it. And I was so emotionally depleted and no one was pouring into me. And I just felt like I'm done. I've had enough.
When you say you had nothing to show for it, you're showing the world that you have a husband. Looking from the outside in, that's one thing to show. But what else would you have wanted to show? What would have counted as I've got something to show for it?
I was looking for emotional safety. This whole relationship was one of trying to find emotional safety.
Yeah.
And that's the crazy thing, because on the outside, my life looked amazing. I had a house, I had a car, I had a nice husband. I didn't have to work if I didn't want to. There was a season that I didn't work. When I was depressed, I was posh depressed. I was drinking champagne first thing in the morning. It wasn't like it was a posh depression.
Yeah. It's all in your name, Tanaka. We're good.
Yeah.
We saw it. We cool.
You saw it. You called it. You called it out.
Damn. Yeah. Okay. So you see, all of this is happening. You got nothing to show for it.
Emotionally, I had nothing to show for it. Emotionally, I was bankrupt. And then this is when the real disintegration happened, because now I'm realizing nothing's changing. I am not even making an effort anymore for him. So what was keeping the relationship was him managing his emotions and kind of putting myself on the back foot. But now I've got nothing to give. And now I'm snappy, I'm derogatory, I'm really hurting his feelings, and I can see it. But I don't care. I don't care anymore, because I'm like, you've been doing this to me for the last 9 years and I don't have anything more to give. So unfortunately, his mom passes away and we have to go to his hometown, and I'm on my back foot. Like, when you have nothing to give, and I'm just like, I don't even want to be here.
So you still hadn't met her?
I hadn't met her, no. I had just seen her. Like FaceTime and, spoken a couple of times briefly when he's on the phone to her.
Yeah. Ish. Yeah.
It's bad. But now we're coming to the end. So what's happened here is I'm emotionally depleted. Remember, I told you he used to speak to his mom every week. So now he needs emotional support from me because his mom's passed away. And I have nothing to give. Zero. Empty. Done. And he is so hurt by that. Why are you making it about you? My mom has just died. And people are like, his aunt from church is calling me. She's like, this is not about you right now. You need to be there for him. And I'm like to people, I have nothing to give. And no one understands what that means. And yeah, from then he really starts to resent me.
Yeah.
And we tried a series of things to make it work, but it didn't. And just one day we were at this nice manor and we were trying to make it work. And I saw a post by a lady who had written something about living with a man with, they call it, living with a man who's neurodivergent. And it was the first time in those 10 years I'd ever considered this man to be neurodivergent. But every single thing she said about her experience, I ticked 100%.
Really?
Every single thing. And I was like, finally, I think that's what gave me the strength to leave, because I was like, finally, I had an answer. Like, I wasn't crazy. It wasn't that I hadn't tried enough. It wasn't that, it wasn't me. I wasn't the problem. And just knowing that, I was just like, nah, deuces.
I'm going to ask what could be a silly question. With this newfound knowledge, wasn't that a fresh opportunity to try and do things differently and make it work?
You people don't understand when I say I had nothing to give, right? By the time we get to this point, like I said, I'm not looking after myself mentally. I have become an addict at this point, because now I was smoking every day. I was drinking every day. I did not have what it takes. I needed looking after. I just did not have what it takes to be there for him. And to now deal with this whole new neurodive, I was done.
Right.
And if he couldn't see that, so I remember having the conversation with him in the manner, I said, do you think you could be this thing? And he categorically flat out said, no, don't label me.
Yeah.
And I said to him, well, but this is my experience of living with you. And it became an argument. And I just realized, I don't have this. This is bigger than me. This is God's work. This is not me. So my exit was, I'm going to tell you my exit, because my exit was as fantastic as my entry. So we're at this manor house, right? We've had an argument downstairs, and I'm asking about the neurodivergent thing. We come back upstairs. I don't want to really talk. He wants to have sex. This is the story of our life. So I tell him I don't want to, but he insists. So he literally is the same thing. It was like a deja vu. I'm literally looking at the ceiling thinking, I don't want to be here. And then I just heard a voice inside me say, it's enough. And I just pushed him off him. I pushed him off me. I said, I'm not doing this anymore. And that was the last night we spent together. I walked out. I was like, nope, not doing this. Took my bags, booked a different room. And that was the last time we were together.
Wow. You know, I usually have a lot of questions and a lot of things to say, but a lot of things make sense now that you mentioned them. Not to justify some of the ways that you moved, because you moved a bit mad, you know.
No, I did.
with some of the stuff in there, but it all makes sense.
Yeah.
And now your lessons actually really do come alive. Number one, where you say somebody can be a good person and still not be your person. This really feels like it. He didn't do or say a lot of the things that he did do and say because he's horrible.
Yeah.
It's just the way that he's able to communicate.
Exactly.
And then saying sorry doesn't mean that there's a changed mindset.
Yeah.
Right? Because his mind processes stuff the way that it does.
And I would raise these things with him. So I guess I neglected to say, like, I would raise these things with him and be like, I don't, this is not love to me. And he would apologize. Like sometimes this guy would cry. Every time I threatened to leave, he would cry. So I definitely knew he had a trauma around people walking out on him.
Right.
And he would apologize to the hilt. But it literally was the moment that is forgotten. It's like it goes back to zero. It's like reset, and he's doing the same thing again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure how I feel about lesson number 3 now. To say you can't paint a red flag green. Do you know what I mean? Because so I was just dealing with how his mind processes stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it may be perceived as a red flag, but it's probably couldn't help being abrupt. He couldn't help being anal about how things need to look. He couldn't help about being, having certain views that only he could process and understand, the way that he could.
I hear you, but I did this so that, like the same way that lady taught me something, so that if there's anyone who has identify similarly, I just want to say, just because you understand it doesn't mean you can put up with it or have to.
100%, totally get you on that.
That's the thing. The relationships that work with neurodivergent people are where they acknowledge it and actually make an effort.
Gotcha.
To meet their partner there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Hey, well, Tanaka, that's a lot you've shared there.
Thank you.
And I like how it's gone full 360, because there were some things where I was just like, what? and then putting this at the end of it is like, oh, and I'm sure there's some people who listen to this podcast who've had to deal with situations like this, and I'm grateful for you sharing all of those.
You're welcome.
And just to play back the lessons, number one, someone can be a good person and still not be your person. Number two, saying sorry doesn't mean a changed mindset. Number three, you can't paint a red flag green. And last but not least, which I think is the most important for me out of all of these, your feelings matter. Because it goes down right from the very first feeling when you when you set a boundary that wasn't quite respected, and the moment that you left that room, and that being the very last feeling you had as well towards the end, just really signifies your feelings really, really do matter.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing this with me, Tanaka.
You're welcome.
And you all have been listening to another episode of The Feeling Station. I'm your host, Tinto, and I will catch you in next weekend's episode. Peace.
Thank you. Bye.
Tell me what you're feeling.
Sati's andaro raini and chake zaini.
Tell me what you're feeling. Now that it's over.
Sati's andaro raini and chake zaini.
Let me talk about my feelings. Let me talk about my feelings, yeah.
Urudoi motoru noto kujidziru amai.
Kujidziru amai. Love is a fire.
Urudoi motoru noto kujidziru amai.